but I believe it was Coach Arians that said, it took even the great Tom Brady time to learn and fully ingest that Tampa Bay system down there. So if it could take someone like a Tom Brady who has immense football IQ, who's an incredible hard worker, who studies everything, if it took him time to turn around and take that whole offense in, it's got to take time for all these guys to take the Nick Sirianni offense in.
First guest of the week. What is that I see around his neck? Did he win a gold medal on us, or is that a sling? What's the deal here?
Joe was on the injured list.
Yeah, that's a sling, guys. That's a sling.
What happened?
I took a spill. I found out my head and the rest of me is not as rock hard as I thought it was.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I don't think I'll be throwing 90 miles an hour anytime soon, though.
Okay.
Did you throw 90 at one point, or did you have the
nasty? Not even close. Slide? Not even close. I'd be lucky if I threw 60.
All right, Joe, we got you. I don't know if you heard us, Jody and I, going back and forth on Peter King's first power rankings of the season. Most notable, he's got Indianapolis.
What is it, May 24th?
Exactly. That's how silly it is. But nonetheless, it's Philadelphia. It's Birds 365. Mm-hmm. From the national perspective, nobody expects anything from this team. Nobody. I mean, nobody. And it's consistent across the board, and it's about the head coach and the quarterback. Ultimately, he's got Carson Wentz and the Colts in the top 10. He's got the Eagles in the bottom 5. This is where we are nationally. Is it that bad locally, or is everyone misreading this situation?
I think it's that bad locally. You guys both know a lot of people in the field. I know a number of people in the field, and not too many people are optimistic that this team can finish above 500. I know there's been some folks on the radio, some prognosticators on the radio saying that they're going to win. I believe I heard someone say someone's going to win as many as 11, which you still have a tough time seeing.
You got two ends of the spectrum. You got the fans and you got the more realism. I think it's, as usual, it's, somewhere in between, to be honest.
I still say, and again, I had the honor of being your first guest on your show when you guys first began. I still say, and I actually literally put my money where my mouth is under, I think what's it, over under 6.5?
6.5.
So yeah. I still say 5 or 6. There's some growing pains here. There's some things here that people are going to have to deal with when it comes to this team. And you're dealing with an older team, for the most part, an older team. You're dealing with a system. I mean, people don't understand what goes into installing an offense, what goes into installing a defense. It is something there that I know I had the pleasure of talking to Coach Vermeil, the legendary Eagles coach, Dick Vermeil, who I think we all agree should be in the Hall of Fame. And he still rails against the fact that the coaches today do not have they can't install things in a practical way where you can walk through things. Everything today is video and Zoom and virtual. So it's one thing to know it in your head. It's another thing to train and build muscle memory to where you're going on the field and seeing and flying to where you have to be, to reacting where you have to be, as opposed to thinking where you have to be. And I think, in my opinion, my very strong opinion, there's going to be a lot of thinking, at least in the first 2 months with this Eagles team. Because, again, you're dealing with something new, something there that's new to everyone. And you're also dealing with a bunch of new players. So new players, new system, new coaching staff. And there's a lot of learning and time to absorb all this stuff, before they're able to turn around and practically use it on the field.
So are you telling me the get-togethers that the Eagles had last week in their first off-season group workouts they didn't come together like a jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces fitting perfectly? Is that what you're trying to tell us, Santoliquito?
You can't make me laugh too much. Things hurt still. But yes, that's what I'm saying. That's no problem. But that is exactly what I'm saying. And again, it's going to take some time. And I don't care how much talent you have in the world. I mean, was it Coach Arians, guys? Refresh my memory, but I believe it was Coach Arians that said, it took even the great Tom Brady time to learn and fully ingest that Tampa Bay system down there. So if it could take someone like a Tom Brady who has immense football IQ, who's an incredible hard worker, who studies everything, if it took him time to turn around and take that whole offense in, it's got to take time for all these guys to take the Nick Sirianni offense in.
Yeah, so we talk about off-season work, Joe, and the scale back further. There's no mandatory minicamp. The veterans kind of got that in return for coming in for the OTAs, which, by the way, start today officially down in South Philadelphia. But it's glorified walkthroughs. So when you talk about guys like Dick Vermeil and Bruce Arians, who sort of been on both sides of the fence, not so much Dick with the pandemic, obviously, but certainly Bruce, the scale back in time to work with these guys, and especially with a new coach installing new systems, is it even possible in the current environment?
I don't think it is. No. That's why I believe the advantage goes with the other three teams in the division. I know they're going through some transition. I know Dak is back. And even though he knows pretty much, I'd like to believe he knows McCarthy's system. And correct me if I'm wrong, too, he was having super games up until the injury. So, if he even comes back even close to that, obviously you see Dallas. And people still forget how close the Giants were to making the playoffs. I had the pleasure of talking to Joe Judge, which that'll come out maybe in a couple of days. But I had the pleasure of talking to Joe Judge a few weeks ago, one-on-one for quite some time. And Joe feels really good about the culture that he's installed and the arc of that team and where they're going. And if you look at the three teams in the NFC East, despite the fact that how deplorable the NFC East was last season, you're dealing with still a Washington team that has probably, if not the best, certainly one of the best defensive fronts in the league. So they're going to be back. They're dealing with, and in Washington too, with getting a veteran quarterback in there that has seen probably every defense going back to Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone. So that's so you have something there that's improving. You have a lot of weapons up in New York with the Giants, and you certainly have a lot of weapons with the Cowboys. And with the possibility of Dak coming back. So you have three teams that I believe are on an upward going up in an upward arc. And the Eagles, either they're going to maintain, because I don't think it can get any worse than last year going 4-11-1, or they're going to turn around and they're going to basically, they're going to get better. I think we all agree there's no doubt they're going to be better. But I don't think they're going to be that much better than they were last year, again, because I think a lot of it has to do with the growing pains and learning and absorbing the system.
Oh, by the way, we're going to have Zach Rosenblatt on a little bit later, who covers the Giants for NJ.com on with us. We're going to try and start to get some people on about the other teams behind enemy lines, the other teams that Eagles will be facing off on, specifically twice, each with divisional opponents. Let me get this out there before Zach ever hops on. I like Joe Judge. I think the Giants have a really good young head coach in place. Stop whining about last year. Just drop it. Forget about it. Yes, the Eagles with the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld in the second half kind of screwed the Giants a little bit, but you were 6-10, coach, okay? It wasn't like you were some running into the playoffs, building up momentum, about to take over the National Football League team. You're 6-10. So, yeah, did you get stiffed a little bit, not make the playoffs last year? Yes, you would have lost to Tom Brady instead. It would have been your team losing instead of the Washington football team in the first round. So at some point, you got to drop that and move on. But I do think Joe Judge is a good young coach who's going to give the Eagles problems for years to come.
Joe's contention with that whole situation was he was railing against the situation, not the Eagles situation per se. The man told me straight to his face, has immense respect for Doug Peterson, immense respect for the Eagles organization. that comment, he felt, in Joe's opinion, was taken out of context. He was railing against the situation itself, that under him, his New York Giants wouldn't do what happened in the end of that game. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of guys in the league. They felt as if this was a shot against the integrity of the league, because you hear about tanking certainly in the NBA. You hear smidgens of tanking here and there with different other sports teams, but hardly ever, if ever, would you ever hear the word tanking equated with the NFL in any way. I mean, what's the saying again? Any given Sunday, where a lower team. I mean, the Eagles have been certainly beneficiaries of teams that didn't certainly tank in the end when they've turned around and they made the playoffs. I believe, guys, was it that great run with McNabb and I would say McNabb's last great season when they made that run and they lost to the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC Championship. But they got a bit of a streak, correct me guys if I'm wrong, that they had to get some help towards the tail end of that season to even make the playoffs. And then they got on a hot run and boom. Could have led to another, amazing historical season. But in a lot of ways, it still did. And the Eagles were certainly the beneficiaries of teams that didn't tank.
Yeah, Joe, you don't even have to go back that far. If you go back to 2019, the Eagles needed, I believe it was Chicago. Was it Chicago to run, or was that the year before? Either way, Chicago was clearly on the route to winning the NFC North. They didn't have to play in week 17. They were going into Minnesota. All Minnesota needed was a win, and the Bears just bulldozed them. And then they had to play the Eagles. No,
that was 2018.
No, 2018.
2018 season.
Then they had to play the Eagles, and they lost to the Eagles.
Yeah, the double doink game. Yes, exactly.
So you don't even have to go back that far.
Yeah, and that's just kind of what gets me here a little bit. That's why I think it's not just the Giants that have a right to turn around and bang the drum, with the Eagles and what they did in the final game of last season. Yeah. It's the NFL. And it's just like, this is kind of a bad precedence, guys, that we don't like to see. Because I think there's a trust factor in here, an unspoken code that the NFL has always carried and carried it in a very glorified way that, we're always going to give as much as we can give, despite the talent levels that are certainly different, but we're always going to give it a shot. And I know, and we all know, there's players on that Eagles team that were not exactly happy the way that final game played out. And that's a credit to them.
Jalen Hurts wasn't happy.
No.
I mean, he wanted to go out and win that game. Man, that's the competitiveness. But, the one thing I will say, and to both of you guys, and the Giants are a perfect example, because you talked to Joe Judge, Joe, and as you said, you explained what's going on with him, and he doesn't think the philosophy of that team, that organization would do that. But, guess what? If John Mara tells him to do it, he's got to do it. I mean, John Mara told Dave Gettleman, hey, we got to win this year. You got to go out and sign free agents. You never know what position a franchise is in.
Yeah, and the Eagles are certainly smart enough guys to turn around and realize and make the moves that they made to get in the playoffs. To get themselves in a position to get Devonta Smith.
Yeah. Right. So if you want to look at it that way, it did end up being advantageous. Although they had the 6th pick, they traded back to the 12, then they traded back up again. So it does kind of get lost in the watch over time. Last game,
and they did gain a first-round pick from it too. In a sense.
They got an extra. Cost them a third to move back up, but they got an extra push. So yes, eventually a plus on the ledger side for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right. So Peter King.
Can I ask you two guys questions here, real quick here? What did Peter King base his opinion on in terms of putting the Colts in the top 10? I help me out here, guys. Educate me.
That's exactly Santoliquito. Thanks for doing my job. That's exactly where I was going next. You beat me to it. How are the Colts in the top 10? They acquired the worst quarterback in the National Football League last year. And that's supposed to be an upgrade from, old man Phillip Rivers, who wasn't what he used to be, but still was proficient enough that he wasn't the last-ranked quarterback in the National Football League. And the Colts have had an okay offseason in addition to that. At best, I think their draft was okay, nothing special. Is it because the other teams in that division are going backwards? I think Tennessee takes a step back. We know the Texans take a big step back because of their quarterback question position. Jacksonville was 1-15. They should be better with their new quarterback and their new tight end, Tim Tebow. They should be much. I don't get it. How do you put the Colts in the top 10?
I think the thinking here is that locally, we know something that they don't know. We know Carson Wentz can't play. Well, we know he can't play the way he played in the 2017 season. I still think he could play. I still think he can be, and again, I equate him with Matt Stafford. If he could be Matt Stafford, yeah, the Colts, I think, can be that good, but he still has to prove that he could be that good. And it's kind of interesting. I'll go back here again when I did my story in January 2019. Again, you guys know locally I got bashed. Nationally, there was a lot of acceptance of that story. Now, here the twist side of it is that people nationally have a belief in Carson Wentz that we all saw shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be any kind of faith or trust in him until he proves it. I still believe Carson has some ability. I still believe Carson Wentz can win in this league. But again, when he had that lit the world on fire in 2017, he's going to be the next great thing. He's going to last forever. And the remnants of there's still many people that believe that. And I don't think I have to argue with the two of you guys that there's certainly not a belief in that here in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speculate what Peter's thinking. My assumption, because I've talked to a lot of national guys, it's not 2017 Carson Wentz. They expect to see 2018, 2019 Carson Wentz. And you look at Indianapolis, it's a playoff team. It's a good supporting cast. He's comfortable with Frank Reich. Quentin Nelson is the best offensive lineman in professional football. Yes, the best offensive lineman in professional football. They bring in Eric Fisher, so you're going to have a better offensive line than he had last year. These are some of the things that you think, okay, the Colts might be pretty good. But if he plays like he played last season, they're not going to be good. So do you believe in Frank Reich getting him back on the right track? Do you believe in that offensive line making things easier for him? That's the only avenue I can get to where Peter's getting.
Well, I have a personal bias here because I go way, way back with a young man who I've known since he was 13. Covered him at Salem High School. Guys, you know where I'm going with this. Covered him at Salem High School, covered him at Wisconsin. Special young man on a lot of different levels. John Taylor. John Taylor's going to be a factor. And if they run any kind of balance there, ease Wentz in, they could be very good. I mean, Carson Wentz deserves quite a bit of the blame for last season, but also, again, what we all touched upon, that Doug Peterson could have helped him out in different situations, starting him off with things easier, starting him off with the quicker routes, as opposed to 5 and 7-step drops, eased him in, built the confidence. And I think that's something there that Frank Reich will do with him. I think he'll ease him in to what they're doing. I think he'll turn around. They will rely on John Taylor and that offensive line. Some ball control, having that mix. And again, if we remember, Carson Wentz did exceptionally well in that system with Jay Ajayi and the Garrett Blunt and the way they pounded teams in that 2017 season. They beat the living hell out of those teams. They wore them down, and that's how they won. And it opened up so many different things for Wentz throughout, all over the field. So if you look at it from that perspective, I can see and understand where Peter King is coming from. And it does make some sense considering, again, a better offensive line. You have a quality, proven running back in Taylor, who, again, in my opinion, is only going to get better. And again, this feeds all into, hey, Carson, you don't have to do it all alone, which I think Carson felt. Now, it certainly wasn't the case in Philadelphia, but I feel very strongly is that what Carson felt? That's exactly the way Carson Wentz felt. John, you're down there a lot. What did you feel he took more onto his shoulders than he should have last season?
Yeah, I think Carson has the type of personality where if things are going bad, he tries so hard to get out of it. The old, he just digs the hole deeper. He's pressing, becomes that type of situation instead of just letting, Doug would constantly say, I can't tell you how many times I heard him say, let the offense work for you. Don't worry about extending plays. Don't worry about that. If the guy's open, throw the football. By the end of it, he didn't trust what he was seeing. He didn't trust his own receivers. He didn't trust the running backs to be in the right spot as an outlet receiver. He didn't trust his protection. He didn't trust anything. And
he didn't trust himself. He didn't trust
and,
himself.
and you saw the decline in play. That's
Let me
basically
run this.
what it came down.
Let me run this speculative question by both of you two guys. How much will the level of Carson Wentz's play this year, after all is said and done, Colts put up whatever regular season record they have, in the playoffs, not in the playoffs, winning the playoffs, they do what they do, and you're going to have your own opinion on what that will be at this time. How much of Carson Wentz's play in the Colts season will dictate whether Coach Doug Peterson is back on the sidelines in the NFL in 2022?
That's a good question.
Either one of you can go ahead and answer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to say this on a personal scale. I could see Doug coming back in 2023. The reason why is, first off, now did his son sign with the 49ers or Arizona?
That's a good question. I have to look that up.
So his son's in the league. I think Doug would like to take some time off. And I believe Doug does have 2 more years left on his $5 million a year deal with the Eagles, correct? He still has 2 more years left.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. So I think when the time comes when that $5 million is up and Doug runs out of that money, which I don't think Doug's going to do. We both know Doug is a good, mature, wise man who's going to enjoy it as he should. I could see 2023 being a season where Doug comes back. There's a lot of people that we all know in the Philadelphia media that think Wentz is shot. Ironically, again, Mr. Quote Unquote Wentz hater. I shouldn't do that. I don't think he's completely shot. I think they can win in Indianapolis, and I think he needed a new start. Now, but I also believe I think it's going to be a castle that crumbles down next season when people get him and everybody in the AFC South begins to improve again. But I think what Wentz is capable of doing under Reich is going to be it could be good. It could be very positive. And I also think you have in Reich someone there that has a personality that'll turn around, and at least in the beginning, because I'm sure through time, because coaches seem to tend to be this way with Mr. Wentz, I'm sure through time, having a full season and being the head man, dealing with number 2, that through time, Carson's reliability to frustrate people around him will once again surface.
Now, Josh signed with the 49ers, so he gets to learn under George Kittle. So that's pretty good. Yeah, but secondly, from my perspective, I think the bigger issue with Doug is here. I really do. And not even with Jalen Hurts as much as some of the young players. I think you probably heard it too, Joe. One thing I think you can criticize the old coaching staff on was the lack of developmental aspect of this organization, young players not moving forward. So if Jalen Reagor turns into, wow, Jalen Reagor's a good player, I think that hurts Doug Peterson more than something that's going on in Indianapolis. But second part of what you said, waiting comes with it, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And I do think the Lombardi Trophy still holds some cachet around the NFL. I think he could get back into it next season if he wants to. But if he wants to wait, boy, man, life moves fast. They might move fast.
He has $5 million. He has $5 million. He has $5 million reasons.
Oh, I'm not saying he needs to do it. I'm saying if he wants to do it.
Yeah.
That would be my concern.
John, I like your concept that the Eagles under Doug Peterson last couple of years didn't develop their young guys. I might cut him some slack for Jalen Reagor, but if J.J. Arcega-Whiteside turns into a player this year, that'll look real bad for Doug because they had 2 years of J.J. and couldn't get squat out of him. And all of a sudden, he's a contributing wide receiver. Yes, that will point at Doug quite badly that why couldn't you do this with the owner selected J.J. Arcega? But I digress. We're talking about the Eagles and the additions during the offseason, Joe. Will Ryan Kerrigan be this year's key offseason addition that maybe you didn't see some coming? Maybe you even question it a little bit because he doesn't fit the mold of what the Eagles are going to try and do. He looks purely like a rental to upgrade their chances this year. Oh, by the way, I got no problems with that. Everybody wants to compare him to Chris Long, and I'm not suggesting, like Chris Long, he'll be the missing piece to raise the Eagles to high levels like a Super Bowl championship. But veteran guy comes in, does his job, makes you a better football team. Can Ryan Kerrigan be this year's type of player?
I think Ryan Kerrigan's going to add more off the field than he is on the field. He is 32. I believe the Eagles linebackers coach, I think he's only 27.
Yeah,
I think he's 27.
Yeah.
So I think all I hear about Ryan Kerrigan are good things. Good guy off the field, good guy on the field. There are a lot of similarities with he and Chris Long. Intelligent. So many people could learn from him. I think he is a culture, a foundation kind of guy that you can get in there. And again, the younger players can learn work ethic. They could learn the things that he knows. And I think he's also the type that will impart his wisdom to other players. Despite the fact that I think the world of Joe Flacco, unlike Joe Flacco, Joe is an older guy, a veteran, a Super Bowl winner. But, if he has a chance to reach out and turn around and help Jalen Hurts here and there, I think he will. But I don't think he's going to go out of his way to do that. With Ryan Kerrigan, I believe he is the type of character guy, the type of guy that every team needs. And I don't care what area of sports it is, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB. He's a guy that's going to make people around him better through his wisdom. I don't know how much more he has left in the tank. And again, this is a team that I think we all agree is not going to be very good. When they got Chris Long, the infrastructure was far younger. Your Fletcher Cox was younger. Jason Peters still had something left in the tank. Kelsey didn't have as much wear and tear on him. Brandon Brooks did not break down with the two torn Achilles. You have Lane Johnson. That was still, arguably one of the best tackles in the league. So the infrastructure was there when Chris Long came to this team to push this team over that top. The infrastructure, I think we all know, is not there for this Eagles team. It's a young coaching staff that actually, the ironic part is they could learn as much from Ryan Kerrigan as the players, next to Ryan in the locker room. So I think he's going to do far, far more off the field than he is on the field. And the operative word here is this is a team in transition. And again, a team that's not going to win anytime soon. But I think someone like a Ryan Kerrigan can help institute the kind of culture that Nick Sirianni would like.
All right, last one from me, Joe, and I want to thank you for fighting through the pain, getting off the injured list.
Tough guy, Santoliquito.
Birds 365. I can't wait to see you. And that's not just for boxing swag. I'm not looking for free stuff.
Yes, he
wink,
is.
wink, wink, wink.
Yes, he is.
But
listen, the two years, I'll take care of the 2 years. Also, real quick here. I know it's Eagles 365, but I'll tell you what, that Jose Ramirez fight with Josh Taylor over the weekend was fantastic.
Ooh, I didn't see it yet.
It was on ESPN. It was a great fight, and it certainly was. It was about real fights, real fists, real fighters, and not some YouTuber who likes to snatch hats off people and run around with all that business. It's just a whole mess, and that's why boxing's in the state boxing's in. Also, a real quick aside: can we call ourselves the three bald tears?
What are you talking about?
The three bald tears.
With my Budweiser hat on.
Yeah.
So you
that's why we have you on.
You guys can fight for D'Artagnan. I'll fight for one of the other guys.
Yeah. That's why we have you on, Dave. We've got to have that symmetry.
But
I do want to say, we're going to be talking this time next year. And I'm going to predict that. And I want to know if Jalen Hurts is still going to be the Eagles quarterback.
That's a good question.
I've stumped Joe Santoliquito.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, you know what? Oh man. The fan in me wants to say yes. The media me says no. I think they'll look for another answer next year. Again, talking to some of the things, some of the coaches that I know in the SEC, and some things that still resonate with me, is his inability to basically throw the ball the way Wentz threw the ball. All the intangibles are certainly there: leadership, character, willing to run through a brick wall, wanting to play in that last game against Washington. All those things are certainly there. But when that inability comes, when you're not able to do the things that you're supposed to be able to do as an NFL quarterback, that certainly starts to surface. I don't know if he has, and again, the twist of it is that I don't know if he has all the talent that Carson Wentz has or had. But certainly, again, if you put Wentz's ability with Jalen's character, you have a hell of a quarterback. But regrettably, I don't think he's going to make that quick of a maturation process, arc, that much of a positive arc that quickly. I think he's going to be running for his life most of the season. I don't see Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson holding up. We still don't know what the situation is with Ertz. It's a very nebulous situation that he's walking into. And again, compounded by the fact that this is his second year. He's dealing with a second head coach. He's dealing with a second offense that he needs to learn. And again, there's growing pains. And I don't know if the Eagles, more specifically Howie Roseman, would be that patient to grow with him just yet. It's going to be a matter of whether or not the Eagles will have the patience with him. I don't believe they will. And professionally, as a media person, wearing my media hat, I say they're going to look for someone new. They're going to have the two first round picks next season.
Probably three.
Probably three. And one of them's going to be very high, and probably is going to be theirs because, again, I don't see them winning more than 5 or 6 games next season. So, I see them picking a quarterback in next year's draft, and I see them picking them pretty high. And regrettably, Jalen Hurts will not get the opportunity that I think he deserves.
All right, my last question, I'll make a percentage rather than yay or nay. But basically, it's the same thing because if it's over 51%, it's a yay. If it's below 50%, it's a nay. Will Greg Ward lead the Philadelphia Eagles in number of catches in this upcoming season the same exact way he did in 2020?
Wow. I'm going to say definitive no. I think Jalen Reagor could step up.
Another hater.
Yeah, no. Maybe just 3-way tie between Fulgham, Reagor, and Greg Ward.
No, we got Devontae now.
That's what am I saying? Yeah,
Devontae's going to lead touchdowns. I'm going to go with touchdowns. Where Greg Ward, oh, by the way, led the Eagles this past year, touchdown receptions as well, in addition to overall receptions.
I'm going to get the top 2 Eagles receivers right now. Where are we? What's today's date? May 24th.
Well, hold on.
Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert.
Well, yeah, hold on. You have to define top 2 receivers. Is it number of receptions, reception yards, or touchdown receptions? Which category are you using to determine top wide receivers?
Reception yards and touchdowns are more important to me. So I'm going to say I could see Goddard having more touchdowns than Smith. But either way, it's 1-2.
John, out of the wide receiver crew, who do you see leading that pack?
Devontae's going to be 1. Reagor's going to be 2. Okay. Number 3 is going to be to be determined. If it's Greg Ward, it's a disappointing situation for the Eagles.
Okay. All right. Listen, hey, I give you guys a lot of credit, and I'm surprised both of you aren't wearing sunglasses with the light bouncing off my head. But
same here, brother.
Yeah. Well, you got it a lot easier. For some reason, it bounces off this dome. a little bit more radiant.
It's a good thing that Joe Santoliquito could eat left-handed because the right hand's on the disabled list. But Joe, we appreciate you gutting it out for us. Thanks for hopping on with us today, buddy.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.